Hello, in this video today I am going to turn a sari into a walkaway dress. Here is the pattern. And I have a pattern piece out here. This is for the front. And basically what I have done is I have gone through and I have made a separate pattern piece for the front, because I find with any patterns usually I have to do a pretty good amount of manipulation if I'm going to have it fitting well around my torso. I've mocked up a muslin because that is definitely what you want to do when you have a pattern like this that you want to fit well. And really, you know, for probably 90% of us out there, the pattern as it is written is not going to be completely fitting us the way that we want it to. So here I'm going through and I'm transferring markings from the pieces. This is the back from the original pattern piece and this is the mock-up. And I've extended out this kind of belt that comes from the back and it wraps around to the front. So now I'm kind of cleaning up the side pieces. I previously went through and I sewed all of the different darts and I repositioned the darts so that they looked pretty good in this muslin. And I'm just kind of cleaning that up so it looks good. And then I'm adding some extra fabric here because it turned out it was a little skimpy. This is an area that's right around the armhole or arm's eye. So I'm just getting that to where it's going to be nice and flattened out, and that way I can seam rip all of these pieces like I've already done here, and I can go ahead and use these for laying over my final fabric that I'm going to use for this project. Another thing about this particular pattern is that the front, it has to wrap around. And if you are using fabric that is more of like the 42 inches wide, then if you are a little bit more generously proportioned like myself, it might not actually wrap all the way around enough for your pattern. So what I am doing here is I'm actually adding pieces that start at the waist and will wrap around. And here I have the final sari material laid out, and I'm going to make those first cuts. It's always a little scary to cut into a nice fabric, because once you've done that, there's no going back. But thankfully this is a sari that I wasn't really that fond of anyway. And right now I'm laying the pattern, the original pattern piece across, because in my muslin I did not make it full length. And now I'm marking all of the different darts that I will need. I actually have a dart that I added in the process that goes from the arm's eye down. It's almost as if it's like a princess dart at that kind of a point. I just find that it eliminates that gap that happens. It happens on a lot of the patterns that I've worked before, and I noticed on some of the mock-ups that people did of this dress that was happening to them. I am working on the back piece now, and I have it folded over as it is going to be cut on the fold. And now I can mark my darts. And then here I'm laying out, because I'm going to go ahead and cut those bits from the front that actually start at the waist and go all the way back. And I am using my dressmaker's curve to help me out with the rest of the cut here. So now I am ready to start sewing, and of course I have to pin different things together. This material is actually very difficult for me to work with because it's more of a chiffon, I guess. It's a polyester material. It's very slippery, kind of see-through, and it just did not want to line up really well. It would be a lot easier to work this in a regular 100% cotton woven type of material like a quilting cotton or a lawn. And now I'm moving on to trying to cut out my skirt. Now this pattern does call for a circle skirt, however, because it's a sari, and a lot of saris feature a nice border, I wanted to incorporate that border into my skirt. So that meant that I needed to do something other than a circle skirt. And what I ended up doing here is I cut my rectangle and I went ahead and I made it a pleated skirt. I also wanted to incorporate that border into the back piece that comes around, so it's almost like a belt. So because the back piece does curve down, I was not able to cut it along that border. So now what I'm doing is I am separately adding that, and I'm making these pieces line up with the back darts. And now I'm adding interfacing. The interfacing will make it so that it has more body and so that it stays nice and straight. And this is an iron-on interfacing that I'm using. Now I need to match up this back piece with my pleated skirt. So I am marking the center of the back, and I'm going to line that up with the center of the skirt and pin it, and then I will sew it. And in this case I'm going to use a French seam because one of the challenges of this fabric was that it unraveled like mad all the time. After stitching up the shoulders, I am trimming up where it is hanging off extra at that belt, because that needs to be even with the skirt so that it can match what's going on with the pattern. And then here I am going to make my bias strips. I am making them 2 inches wide, and that will make it so that my resulting edges are about 1/4 of an inch wide once I sew them. Here I am using an engineered corner that quilters use. It's not necessary, however it does make it so that these pieces can line up nicely like shown there. I've also gone ahead and done this 2-inch cut onto the border. And here I'm using the darker fabric so that I can have it match more like around the arm's eye area that is the front piece. Here I'm going to try to match up that darker border piece with the belt. I already went through with this bias tape, or bias binding in this particular case, and I folded it in half and ironed it lengthwise. So now I'm just matching it up with the dress going all the way through for one of the sides. Here is the first part of stitching that down. I'm stitching it down from the inside, and then I will wrap it around to the outside. And then that way I can top stitch it on the edge. This particular method is more like what you would traditionally use for binding a quilt. I am a quilter, so this is the way that I decided to do this. Now, if I was using a thicker material, I probably would go ahead and use a double folded tape. And here I am, just it's folded over and I'm finishing that side. I needed to have a way of looping the buttons, and so I used elastic cord, and the gold goes very nicely with this border, so that's why I used that. And now I am going to pin my binding to the neckline. I ended up pinning it to the outside of the dress, which meant that I had to stitch that side first. I realized this as I was starting to sew. I'm joining right here at the shoulder seam. Everything I'm doing is at a 45-degree miter, and that is because that will be a stronger point at which I join the two pieces together. It creates a stronger, more sound piece that will last. And here I am hemming the skirt that goes around, the pleated skirt. I'm just doing a simple turned up seam. Here I am with the final result, and also I tried to mock it up as a sari. I clearly don't know what I'm doing here. As the light was not very good in the library, I wanted to be able to show off the nice features with the bright light on my table, so I used a couple of buttons here. That's my enclosure there. There's the binding, the interfacing. You could see the neck binding there. Turned out very nice that way. Difference between the bindings there. The way to wear this dress is to put it on over the top through the neckline area, and then you can fasten it in the back there. I used a bar and hook for that. And that's the dress. Thanks for watching, and please like and comment if you found this video entertaining. I would love to be able to do more of these projects in the future, and it really helps my channel.